Okay, so Adrian, just part of protocol, always ask this. Will you please say your first and last name and spell it out, along with the position title you want to be addressed as?
Okay. Adrian Smith, Adrian Smith, U.S. Representative or Congressman, either one.
Okay, awesome. So get right into the questions. So Adrian, why should you get 2 more years? And what is it like being the most tenured member of Congress from Nebraska, being that you won the election back in 2006?
Well, there's a lot of work to be done. I appreciate the opportunity to draw on some learned lessons of working to solve problems. And we've got many challenges that we face. And so I'm willing to address those. I know that our border is a huge concern right now. I've certainly supported our legislation, whether it's HR 2 or other efforts to strengthen the border. The debt and spending is a major issue. And we need to focus on the biggest drivers of our debt. That's what I've been working on. And we've got some work to do there. Taxes and various regulations. We need good tax policy. I was glad to be in the trenches of the big tax reform bill of 2017 that President Trump signed. And that was great for our economy. It was great for Nebraska. And I'm glad we had that in place before COVID because that has helped us tremendously. Now we need to make sure that we maintain those policies moving forward.
Awesome. And how do you feel about the state Republican Party backing many of the challengers instead of the incumbents?
That's certainly their prerogative. I represent the 3rd District of Nebraska, and it's their input that I take into consideration, and I want to represent them. That's a lot of people, and so I appreciate and I'm honored to have the opportunity to hear from them and apply that as I vote and represent them on the floor of the U.S. House.
Okay, and just yesterday, UNL, you had Columbia University, multiple universities and areas across the country are having protests about regarding to Palestine. So what are your thoughts on that, and where do you think the U.S. should go next with this?
I support Israel. Israel was attacked in October, aggressively attacked. They have responded. I support their right to respond and to ultimately defend themselves. Certainly this violence that we see on college campuses across America is uncalled for, and causing damage and mayhem on these campuses. It doesn't solve anything. In fact, it probably complicates matters, and that's not right. Ultimately, taxpayers have to foot the bill to make repairs, and there are disruptions to law-abiding Americans and students just trying to do what they signed up to do, and it's not right that these disruptions are happening.
Okay, and how involved should the U.S. get in foreign wars, do you think?
Well, I think we need to pay attention. We want to support our friends. I think we need to keep our options on the table in terms of what our response is for a given situation. I think standing behind Israel and helping them with some aid is appropriate, for example. And again, we want to maintain the flexibility to help our friends, especially when they are attacked. And there are aggressors in the world. That unfortunately, there are way too many examples of aggressiveness by some countries against smaller countries. And I think we need to discourage that in the most effective format possible, and certainly in our own interests. Let's make sure that our actions are in our own interests, and our strategies should be formed accordingly.
Okay, and Adrian, what are your thoughts about the Biden EV mandate, and what are your thoughts on there not being a flex fuel mandate as well?
Yeah, the fact of the matter is, President Biden wants to mandate these electric vehicles. Apparently, he didn't see the photographs from this past winter when all of these electric vehicles were stalled because it was cold out, and those batteries actually didn't stand up. Which was no surprise. But it could be that Americans are harmed by the cold weather simply because they might have an electric vehicle. So we need to be mindful of this. I don't think a mandate is necessary. If someone wants to buy an electric vehicle because they appreciate the opportunity to plug in instead of having to gas up at the pump as it used to be all the time, that's their choice. But for the government to mandate that, certainly it doesn't make sense in a lot of rural areas, regardless of what time of year it is. And we don't have the capacity. And let's face it, an electric vehicle right now is effectively coal powered. And so it just doesn't make sense in many ways. And, now they're talking about adding a tariff on top of a government mandate on electric vehicles. And, I'm warning consumers to hold on tight because they could very well be footing the bill for something that, we're not even sure what the ultimate objective is or how effective such a mandate can even be.
Okay, and your thoughts on the Republican frontrunner president not accepting the results of the 2020 election? What are your thoughts on that?
President Trump left office after the election and the inauguration, before the inauguration of President Biden. That speaks for itself. We have a new election coming up, and the American people are interested. They're vigorously interested, and the American people are standing up and saying these policies from the Biden administration have triggered inflation, for example, have led to an economic situation. I can't believe that President Biden is actually proud of this. He acts like he's proud of inflation, and so obviously he doesn't buy his own groceries or shop on his own. I get that, but man, President Biden is out of touch, and he has done harm to our country. And when you look at what his response is, it's throw money at everything. And in fact, go around Congress, whether it's on trade policy, whether it's on student loan relief, that he wants to use taxpayer dollars in the run up to an election. That's just not right, the way the president is operating. I think it's bad for our country, bad for the future of younger generations in our country. And we have a chance to do far better than that to come November.
Absolutely. And what are your thoughts on abortion? Should it be state or should it be federal of some sort?
I have always been pro-life. I think that life begins at conception, and I think there are various policies that we can adopt to help move us in that direction. That Supreme Court said to the states that they have the option. There still would be a federal option. I'm open to how to be most effective with that, and what would be most effective for the future. So we're going to have conversations about that, and that's why we have elections, is to ultimately adopt policies. I hope we can adopt a policy of life and work out a situation to where we can take that stand and ultimately be effective with it.
And the situation surrounding the speakers of House, Taylor Greene looking to push out Mike Johnson. Let me rephrase this. So what are your thoughts about the situation surrounding Speaker of House as Taylor Greene is looking to push out Mike Johnson not long after Kevin McCarthy was removed?
Right. We had a huge disruption last fall with about 3.5 weeks where we could not pass a single bill until we had to get a new speaker. And that was disruptive. In fact, that delayed some aid to Israel. And I have concerns about that. Certainly here we are in May of an election year where we have campaigns already taking place all across America. Different states have different primary dates. But November, every state will vote in the general election. And then after that, as is tradition and by law, we will have the opportunity to select a speaker for the subsequent 2 years. And so there's a process in place. If Ms. Taylor Greene has a different idea, she's certainly entitled to that. I think Mike Johnson, we may not agree on every single thing, but he's done a great job of trying to bring people together, bringing Republicans together with different ideas, different approaches. And I definitely want to avoid a 3.5 week, perhaps even more, given this situation, where we are paralyzed from doing things we need to do. And we need the time to address spending. We've got a limited window to address the appropriations process. And so a disruption as we would try to find a new speaker, not everyone's willing to step up like that. I'm glad that Mike Johnson was willing and able. And it's not an easy job, but we are moving forward here now. And we need to continue in that direction as we address the problems that America is facing, and hopefully channel our efforts to getting a new president come November, because President Biden, I believe, has failed the American people.
Okay, and in your opinion, how do we balance trade partnership with China while at the same time not trusting their government?
You know, it is very important. China wants to undermine our country in different ways. And we need to make sure we buy our products from our friends. And certainly, now China wants to buy some of our products too. That means they need to level the playing field. We need to hold them to account. You know, President Trump worked hard on leveling this playing field for trade and how important it is to us, especially in what I call Ag America, where we are really good at helping feed the world, and other countries need to buy our products as well. There are a lot of moving parts to trade policy. I think it's important that we find channels for our supply chains so that we can buy products from our friends. And there are a lot of countries wanting to do that. And I think we need to become less dependent on China and pursue policies to achieve that. It won't happen overnight, but it is important that China take note that the way they operate is not what we find acceptable. And we need to fashion policies accordingly.
Absolutely. And Adrian, final question is anything else you want to say regarding this interview, and something that maybe I didn't ask you that you want to speak on at all?
I appreciate that. I appreciate this opportunity to have a conversation with you, and ultimately conversations with Nebraskans. I'm honored to have the job that I've had, and I am seeking another 2 years. I certainly would appreciate everyone's vote. I appreciate their ideas. Everyone calling in, writing in, emailing in, or who I see on Main Street as I travel the 3rd District, the 80 counties of the 3rd District. I appreciate the opportunity to represent them. I'm honored and would certainly appreciate their vote.
Awesome. Well, Adrian, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you.
Absolutely. You have a good one.
You too.
Bye.